Hello, welcome to Podnas. This is a sports show with a Southern flair. I'm Daniel Hawks. That's Jared Roser. Today we are going to be previewing LSU showdown with Ole Miss this weekend, and we've got our Podnas pick 7 for week 7 of the college football season. Also Saints Bucks, and we're going to name the high school play of the week. All that in store for you. It's a packed show. Jarrett, how we doing?
Good, man. Just ready for it. I got a little surprise for you at the end too. After we talk
And
Saints
you
Bucks.
let a little bit slip, but not enough to where I know. Okay, so
You might have just got a little taste, but it is nothing compared to what you're about to see at the end of this show.
you need to get a sip of that tea right there. You got a little.
Ha!
Yeah, get in there. Get some Wawa. All right, before we
You
start up
want
here.
you want hot liquids when you throw it, yeah.
Yeah, it does absolutely. Maybe get some throat
Cool it
coat,
down.
buddy.
All right.
This weekend is a huge showdown. It is number 9 Ole Miss coming to number 13 LSU. It's on ABC, 6:30 game. It is going to be in Tiger Stadium, night game at Tiger Stadium. There may be nothing better than that in the entire country. It's going to be an offensive battle, man. What are your thoughts on it going into this game? What are some stuff maybe you've seen in practice this week? How do you think the Tigers are going to stand up to this potent Ole Miss offense?
Yeah, I think you're certainly going to see points by these two teams. I don't expect it to be as bonkers of a shootout as last year was, and I think that is fortunate. That's what LSU wants, is to have it be a little bit more of a balanced game just overall, and certainly, on their side of things, they want to be able to establish some run game. They want to be able to play defense. I think the biggest takeaway this week leading up to this has been just a sense of confidence from the guys on defense for LSU. They talk about how much more prepared they feel right now going into this game than they necessarily did last year. And I don't know that they were tipping their hand to us last year, pardon me, saying that they felt unprepared. But when we saw it play out on that Saturday in Oxford and watched where they were lined up or misaligned and just how off balance they seemed to be on that side of the ball from start to finish, I think that's a game that we looked at from last year. And when we tried to go into 2024 and predict what this season could look like, you look at that week and say the defense has to be better than that. And fortunately, the defense thus far has been much better than that. And I think this will be really the biggest test to date of how much better is this LSU defense, how much better and more complementary is this LSU team as a whole. And fortunately, they do get to host this thing in Tiger Stadium, where they've won this matchup for over a decade now. The home teams have won this game in this series the last 4 times out. And so I think being able to do this thing, A, in Tiger Stadium, B, in Tiger Stadium at night, is going to be a lot of fun and hopefully a little beneficial to LSU when it comes time for it.
Absolutely. Jackson Dart is, I believe, 3rd or 4th in the country at 350 passing yards a game. Nussmeier is not far behind. He's at 7th at 337 yards a game. So these quarterbacks both are very, very good and very good at exploiting defenses and just chucking the ball around. So we'll see how both these defenses respond to it. I do think that LSU versus Jackson Dart or versus Lane Kiffin's offense is kind of where the biggest matchup lies with this. But yeah, it should be a good game. I'm super excited. And I feel like the first like true home game for LSU too. I mean, I know we've had a couple, Nickel State came in, and then, University of South Alabama comes through, but there really hasn't been a significant night game at Tiger Stadium yet this year. So
yeah, we that UCLA game was in the middle of the day, and folks were having to go seek medical attention because of the heat advisory dynamics and all those things. But this is the SEC home opener at night. It's a game that going into the season on a national scale, folks identified as this is one of the biggest, most pivotal games of the season to watch. It could go a long, long way in determining which of these teams, if either, makes the playoffs at the end of this thing. It may very well be the biggest recruiting destination of the weekend on a national scale, certainly one of the top. And so there's going to be an awful lot of kids from around the entire Gulf South that are coming to Baton Rouge to take this game in and watch two teams that a lot of them are choosing between for the next level. And so I expect it to be electric on Saturday night for sure.
Yeah, and let's go into that a little bit more. Does LSU or Old Miss have any big prospects that you know of, or maybe one that's has both teams on the radar that are coming through that this may be a key game in deciding, where they pick schools?
I think this works out inadvertently as a nice little tease to the fact that whenever this happens to go live, there's going to be a video also on the Louisiana Versailles channel chatting with Hayward Howard Jr., a fantastic defensive back at Edna Carr. He's a 2026 kid, but his dad went to Ole Miss. He grew up loving LSU and DBU and all those things, and he was just at Ole Miss a couple weeks ago when they lost to Kentucky. He and a lot of his Edna Carr teammates will be in Tiger Stadium on Saturday, but they're going to be there's a longer list of guys that will be in that stadium Saturday than I could rattle off even. And I think it's important for fans to realize that a game doesn't necessarily swing a recruitment quite as much as I think sometimes people think it might, but the end of the day, if you go to an LSU versus Ole Miss game and those are two of your top schools and LSU wins that game and the atmosphere is lit, that's going to be something that lives in your subconscious as much as you may not try to base it off of one Saturday. It's something that will be in the back of their minds. And so it is an opportunity there from not just a win-loss perspective, but for fans from just an environment and an atmosphere perspective.
Well, listen, I think if the LSU fans come up, win or lose, and they show how loud Tiger Stadium can get and how electric that stadium can be, I think that leaves as much of a lasting impression on someone as anything. So do
Yeah.
that, y'all. I can't be there, but I'll be screaming at my TV at a little bit probably I'd say it will be just as raucous in my house, but it'll just be me. So I won't have I won't have 100,000 strong with me. So
You might not be shaking the structure like the
no, I
Tiger
will be.
Stadium.
I'm literally going to be.
You was
When you guys see these
a wacky
photos.
wailing inflatable
Yeah.
arm flailing tube man right there. What was that?
Yeah. That's me shaking the rafters. That's me earthquake gaming my house. That's what it is.
I think piggybacking off of what you said of some of the dynamics of the passing games too. I'm really interested to see who is available on Saturday night because the wide receiver positions for both teams are areas that both have been kind of banged up. Trey Harris, a Louisiana native who has been a national leader in receiving for Ole Miss, has been listed as, I believe, questionable as of Wednesday night. I do expect him to play, but whether or not he does and how effective he is could be really big. LSU has a few different receivers listed as out or questionable, and so that's concerning. But at the end of the day, they still have guys that have been making plays. They have a lot of depth at that position. And then we talk about those passing games, but what do we see from Caden Durham and the LSU rushing attack? Because if you can find some balance there, some big playability on the ground to go with what Nuss and company are trying to do through the air, that poses a lot of trouble for Ole Miss and also helps kind of keep Jackson Dart and company off the field for a little bit longer of stretches. And so how that all plays out could go a long way in this. And I don't know that I worry as much about Ole Miss's rushing attack this year as I have in recent years with Quinshon Judkins up at Ohio State. He's someone that worried me going into last year's matchup as much as anybody, and he was dang good then, and he's dang good now up in
Yeah.
at Ohio State. But
Now,
a lot going on there for sure.
I know Caden Durham had a foot injury coming out of last game, and he's probable is going to play. How much is that affecting him? Is that like a lingering injury? Was Brian Kelly or he able to speak on that this week? Is that something where we think that may be an issue going into this game?
They've said, I mean, positive things about him being in practice and thinking he's fine ultimately. We're recording this kind of midday Thursday. The last Brian Kelly presser will be Thursday evening, and so that'll be kind of the last takeaways there. But also, I think they feel pretty confident that Caden's going to play and that they're going to expect him to play a notable role. And so even if he was a little bit banged up, I think they'd kind of keep that closer to the
Yeah,
vest a
for
little
sure.
bit, because I don't think it's something that's going to limit him, or they expect to limit him in terms of being on the field and having some expectations to him.
All right. Well, hey, let's pick them. Who you got?
I'm going Ole Miss, man. I look at that game last year and the fact that LSU still had a chance to win that game on the road, despite how absolutely abysmal that defense played. And I think Ole Miss's defense is better. I think LSU's defense is certainly better, though, and they're going to have the opportunity to get off the field in some key spots, just enough key spots to give Nuss and company a chance. I Again, I think Ole Miss's defense is better this year as well, but I still see Nuss and company being able to put up a lot of points, get up into the 30s. And I think this year, that might be all you need to win this game is to
Wait, so
get
are
up
you
in.
going with Ole Miss or LSU?
No, I'm going LSU.
You
I
said Ole Miss, bro.
What did I say
You said Ole Miss.
at the beginning?
Yeah, you said I'm going Ole Miss.
Oh, well, no, I'm not. I'm
Okay.
going Ole Miss.
I thought I was going to have to come in and be the nice guy again, be the guy that
No,
actually roots for Louisiana teams on the Louisiana versus all y'all channel.
I just old school blacked out that for a second because I didn't even know I didn't know what you were talking about because I was so locked in talking about the reasons I think LSU is going to win. I didn't realize I said Ole Miss at the beginning of that. So
Yeah.
that's crazy. But yeah, I think both defenses are improved. I think this game stays in about the 30s this year. We're not looking at a 50 some odd point affair by either one of them. And I think LSU's defense, particularly at home, has enough timely plays to get off the field in spots, and that Nussmeier and company are good for enough.
Hey,
Especially if Durham can pop one here or there. That LSU is going to be able to move the football enough to come away with a win.
I agree with you. Let's move on. Next, we've got Texas, number 1 Texas at number 18 Oklahoma. It's going to be 2:30 on ABC. I'm just going to go straight. I'm going to pick Texas here. I like what Oklahoma has been able to do this year. I just think Texas is one of the top 3 teams in the country. So
yeah, Texas is back. I'm going to pick Texas. Should I say Oklahoma first, though, and just turn it into a roller coaster of emotions?
I should, if you want to make this harder on me when I go back into editing, I would love that. So
No, I've got LSU. I almost said Ole Miss again for some reason. And
you just say Old Miss for every single game.
And I've got Texas.
All right. Next up, number 2, biggest game of the week by far. Number 2, Ohio State at number 3, Oregon. It's going to be at 6:30 p.m. on NBC, unless you're in California, and then it'll be at 4:30 p.m. I know how time zones work.
Very impressive.
Yes. I think. Oh man. I'm going to go with Ohio State still. I know I picked Oregon in our playoff bracket, but I just Ohio State and the way that Ryan Day gets them prepared each and every week. I just don't see them faltering, even though they're going to be up in Oregon. I don't know if this Oregon team has really been tested like this yet, and this will be kind of their first entrance into the Big Ten. And I don't have a lot of stats to go along with this. This is more of a gut feel, which I know whatever is probably so you can probably bet on Oregon, guys. That's what this means. So I'm going to go with Ohio State.
Yeah, I find this a really tough game to pick. This is another game that going into the season you look at as being really pivotal. I think the loser of this game still has a chance to make a playoff for sure. The winner has that much more room for error, though. The fact that it's in Oregon is interesting, but I really think that Ole Miss transfer Quinshon Judkins is going to. I was trying to lure you in and think I was going Ole Miss again, but the Ole Miss transfer at running back Quinshon Judkins as a balance to Will Howard and all of those receivers that Ohio State seems to just be churning out at this point in this program's history. I think that those guys have the firepower. They're clicking right now and just rolling over people. And that this is going to be a far different challenge for these Ducks than they've seen thus far this season, despite the fact that they've really had to grind through some of their wins to this point. And so I'm not going to be shocked either way, but I think Ohio State's going in there, again with Ole Miss transfer Quinshon Judkins.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Next up, Appalachian State at the University of Louisiana. Cajuns, 6:30 ESPN Plus if you're trying to watch it. UL's on a little bit of a roll. And they've got offensively and defensively, they are kind of humming right now. And while App State, I don't know much about this team currently, but they're perennially a very good team. I'm gonna stick with UL,
Yeah, the Nears up there from Boone, North Carolina, have been pretty consistently one of the bigger challenges in the Sun Belt for the Cajuns since App State joined that conference. I don't think this is one of App's best teams. I certainly think they're still, an upper level Sun Belt team, but I have really become pretty sold on the Cajuns through the first half of this season. And so them getting the opportunity to host that game and the way that they're playing with, an increased level of consistency the last few weeks too, going on the road and beating Wake Forest, going on the road and beating Southern Miss. I think they come home and take care of business.
All right. All right. So we both got UL there. Look at us.
I didn't say Ole Miss once that time.
But listen, I'm going to say Southern Miss at ULM. 4 p.m. on ESPN Plus as well. Another Sunbelt game going on. Southern Miss isn't great. They're not. This is not their best season. They're 1-4. They're already 0-1 in the Sun Belt. ULM, like you said last week, they are proven that they are maybe not as rated in NCAA football, one of the worst teams in the country. They are a 6.5 point favorite. And I would take them with that. I would take that over as well.
Yeah, man. Louisiana Monroe versus all y'all mentality right now. They have a chip on their shoulder against seemingly everyone from coast to coast that has doubted them and continues to doubt them. I almost was hoping we didn't pick this game because I'm worried after us picking against them last week and them getting it done. I'm worried that picking for them now, that's not going to work the same way. We might jinx something, but I am real sold on ULM right now. Particularly Southern Miss doesn't pose the same challenge this week as some of their other recent matchups have. And ULM's defense has been phenomenal. And I think that chip on their shoulder and some reasons to remain a little bit feisty and aggravated with folks on the outside during this past week just further helps Coach Bryant Vincent and company make sure that there's no letdown from, on the heels of or in the wake of that JMU win this past week, and that they will come out fired up once again and get another win.
Especially if they can control them. Just looking right here, you're averaging almost 140 rush yards a game. And that is, if they can establish that run and control the game clock, there's no reason to think that they can't dictate what the outcome of the game is going to be. So, all right.
They're really eating off of an old school traditional. We're going to control some things on offense in terms of just ground and pound and just be stifling on defense. It's been fun.
Hey, that's a proven way to win football games. I don't know if you've heard that before.
I had a friend up at JMU last week who was texting leading up to the game and saying how we weren't going to be on the same side. And then when I came out of the high school game I was out on Saturday and saw the score, I just sent him the eyeball emoji